Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Senator Kennedy absolutely goes off on this terrible swamp creature's past comments.
I've got really limited time, and I apologize for interrupting. Just tell me which members of the court you are bought.
I did not think that Justice Clarence Thomas should be failing to disclose his trips on a billionaire's yacht and airplane.
Do you think he's bought?
I believe that there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
I said there is grave risk.
Do you think he's bought?
To the confidence of the American people in our Supreme Court.
Well, if you don't think he's bought, why did you say it?
I said
Yes,
that
you said members of the Supreme Court are bought. You're here testifying as an expert for my Democratic friends, and you're saying the members of the Supreme Court are bought?
I said when the American people feel that way, when we have Supreme Court justices
feel that way?
on yachts and in planes of billionaires and not being disclosed.
Anybody besides Justice Thomas you think is bought on the Supreme Court?
I believe that the court needs to clean
Anybody
up
besides
its
Justice
act.
Thomas?
I'm not going to go through each
I mean,
justice.
you tweeted it.
I tweeted the way the American people feel.
Did you mean it when you tweeted it?
And I stand by that tweet. This Supreme Court of the United States needs to clean up its
Let me ask
The Supreme Court clean up its act? Why don't you start with yourself, sir? Why don't you get your own self situated? Because this guy has Trump derangement syndrome to a T. I'll go into greater detail later, but he's going to show why he's such a ridiculous hypocrite.
you a couple others here, because you've on September 17, 2020, you tweeted, "It looks like Putin's favorite senator could lose," referring to Senator Lindsey Graham. Could you tell me your evidence for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's favorite senator?
I don't recall that tweet and the story.
Well, I've got it. It's
tweeted
right
out.
here. It's right here.
I'm happy to look at the tweet, and I'm happy to write you, explain that. I don't know what that has to do with climate change.
Well, it has to do with your credibility. Did you say, what is your basis for saying that Senator Graham is President Putin's? I mean, have you ever talked to President Putin?
I have not talked to President Putin, and I would be happy to go look at the tweet and look at the story that I tweeted out and what Senator Graham had said in that context.
Wait a minute. Senator Lindsey Graham, the guy who was literally posing next to Ukrainian soldiers, the guy who wants a war with Russia, one of the biggest saber rattlers in the entire United States Senate, is Putin's best friend? This guy is clearly deranged. And guess what? It's going to get even worse. What Senator Kennedy says next is just classic him.
You know, this is something
you say all this stuff. For example, you're here as an expert for my Democratic friends, and you say all this stuff. Do you think Lindsey Graham was taking cash for one of his votes? It's a simple question, Professor.
Received cash, solicitations for cash on my email. And yes, from both political parties in connection with Supreme Court confirmation votes.
Well, I'm out of time, but let me just say for the record.
It's wrong.
My aunt's Facebook page has more credibility than you do.
So this guy's name is Richard Painter. Richard Painter worked in the Bush administration. He then carried some water for Democrats during 2008 to 2016, but he was still a Republican. He makes clear of that. But the moment Trump got into office, that started to waver. This guy does not like Trump. This guy is clearly someone who thinks that he is the purveyor of justice, that he is holding the sword of Damocles and wants to use it upon those that are just not worthy enough. Give me an absolute break. In 2018, he flipped his political party because he was convinced that the completely disproven Russian disinformation and the Russian collusion with Donald Trump was completely true. He bought into this hook, line, and sinker, and he has bought into something that is so wrong, he can't admit it, and he will not claw his way out of it. Because he makes a couple of ridiculous statements. One, that the Supreme Court is bought. Okay, you might be mad that Clarence Thomas is good friends with billionaires. How dare he? I mean, right? Who doesn't want to be friends with a billionaire? And that's not what matters. Senator Thomas does not rule in favor of certain people based on bribes. You are going to have to prove that in the way he makes his decisions. Good luck. There isn't a legal scholar alive, in my opinion, that it would be smart enough to understand Clarence Thomas. All right, the man's smarter than 99.999% of the population. Then, you would also have to prove to me, for some reason, how Lindsey Graham, the literal centrist, war hawk, saber rattler, the guy who wants to go to war with Iran, he wants to go to war with Russia, is Putin's best friend. This guy's mind is gone. The gray matter, it just has been leaked out. It will never get back because he has to admit to himself that he's wrong about something, and that more importantly, the party that he used to represent is morphing. And he will not refuse it. He refuses to admit it. This is all on him. This guy's deranged. That's just the truth of the matter. I feel bad for him because he's clearly articulate, and articulate is usually a good sign of intelligence. But sometimes our smartest people lose their minds. And Senator Kennedy had to call him out because, indeed, your aunt's Facebook page has more credibility than Richard Painter. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until then, y'all have a good one.